Welcome back to another heart-rending episode of You Can't Make This Shit Up. That's David Washington, your host. You know him and love him. I'm Kellen Clark, also hosting today. And today we are talking about Texas. Usually we talk about Florida, or usually we talk about the federal government. But today we're talking about Texas. But even more so than we are talking about immigration, we're talking about the Constitution today. We brought it with us. David, what are we talking about?
So immigration policy has long been under the purview of the U.S. federal government, not individual states, since the U.S. Supreme Court ruled so in the landmark United States versus Arizona case in 2012. So what the fuck is Governor Greg Abbott, is doing in Texas? Let's go.
Yeah, so a Supreme Court decision, one that came out at the end of 2023, came out basically saying that the federal government did have the right, like federal border patrol did have the right to cut razor wire put up by the Texan government if it meant that it could allow them to do their job better. Namely, they needed to cut through the wire to reach some migrants who were already in the country to arrest them. So they were actually stopping immigrants, but Governor Abbott and a lot of the Texas politicians did not take kindly to it. So much so that he issued an order saying that this Supreme Court order is to be ignored entirely. And if you could pull it up, David, real quick.
Sure.
He uses the term supreme law of the land, saying that the Texas laws in this case are the supreme law of the land and not the federal government, claiming that the federal government has failed or not done its oath somehow. So we're going to kind of break down his letter for you today, as well as talk about the two central constitutional issues. Even though we often be very political, we often bring in our opinions, our feelings on matters. There's a lot of brass tacks law that goes into this.
Right.
That I think informs a more clear decision, a more clear view of what's actually happening here.
I agree. Immigration is a hot topic. It is a topic that has divided Americans. Mm-hmm. And more recently, there was a massive immigration bill tied to aid to the Ukraine and to Israel that failed to pass the U.S. Senate when all but 4 Republicans decided to vote it down. This bill was a negotiated bipartisan effort. After 40 years of this stuff, it was a bipartisan effort to get this immigration deal done, giving President Biden unprecedented abilities, responsibilities, and power to shut down the border.
Yeah. And keep in mind, Donald Trump's running in 2024. This deal goes through. Trump could end up with that power. So always keep that in mind when giving power to the executives who comes after.
But very quickly, that's true. Trump did not want to give a Democrat, Joe Biden, a win prior to the election.
Of course not.
So with his influence, Republicans buckled.
Yeah. Very, very political, scoring points. It's kind of just what you expect these days. So let's actually talk a little bit about Abbott's argument here.
Yes.
So Abbott claims that President Biden has violated his oath to faithfully execute immigration laws enacted by Congress, namely noting how many migrants still get in, despite how many laws and federal agencies are presently working on it.
Homeland Security, for instance.
Yes. He's claiming, and I've yet to find any deeper credibility on this claim, that Biden is ignoring federal statutes. That doesn't appear to be the case, but it's what he's claiming. He is also claiming that Article 4 states that the federal government shall protect each state against invasion, and that under Article 1, Section 10, which I'll read to you in a moment, gives him the power to take over the border situation. So let me read this for you.
Okay.
If I can stop dropping it. This is Clause 3 of Article 1, Section 10. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops, or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state, or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. So let's first talk what actually constitutes an invasion. I'm going to pull this up on my phone here. This is from the Texas Public Policy Foundation. They have lots of great materials and resources on how to learn more about this. I'm going to try to remember to put it in the description. I highly recommend you check it out. Reading their summary, they mentioned that framers of the Constitution, and especially the Articles of Confederation, sometimes use it in a hyperbolized sense. But an actual invasion, in this case, they use the term actually invaded. An actual invasion is entry plus enmity. Entry alone is trespass. Trespass is not an invasion. It requires enmity. What exactly does enmity entail, right? Enmity is organization and intention to violate the sovereignty of a state. And actually, they say down here, they address cartels because that's a place Governor Abbott goes often. And I'm going to quote them. President day non-state actors like cartel-affiliated gangs operating within the territory of a U.S. state may fall under the category of invaders, provided their criminal activity reaches a scale or degree of organization that deliberately overthrows or curtails the lawful sovereignty of the state. Now we got to go to let's keep digging. What is sovereignty?
Okay.
Sovereignty is the ability to rule. In short, it's a state's independence. It's a state's ability to govern itself. So in essence, if a cartel were to actually fight the Texas government directly, they were to fight the Texas government directly or try to establish their own law in a part of Texas, Texas could declare war on them.
Sure.
Whew. So that's his first part. Then you got to ask, is this invasion that Abbott said was that he declared, which you don't declare an invasion, you have to actually be invaded. So declaration doesn't make it so. Does the current immigration standing actually warrant that label?
Abbott's stance here does not. It does not justify an invasion, first of all. And to keep it simple, the federal government is responsible for the enforcement of immigration laws, the protection of its states per the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Just keeping it very simple like that. The Republicans' efforts to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas with allegations of failure to protect our borders, failure to follow and execute the laws to protect our borders, failed. So this effort here, whatever Governor Abbott is trying to do, and I get it, he wants to secure the Texas border with Mexico. He has to understand the purview falls under the federal government. Former governor, what's his name? The glasses. He was the Department of Energy secretary under, I think Bush or maybe even Trump. His name will come back to me, but he was the governor of Texas, and when he was running for president, he made the same argument.
Yeah, and then something else I see brought up, because Article 1, Section 10 is where Abbott's argument lies. He mentions, or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. And a lot of people mention that there is a potential danger, at the very least, to immigrants, whether that is, cartel business, whether that is them coming in and breaking the law, anything to that degree. However, it's also important to remember the broader context that we're in. We have had a border with Mexico since the 1840s. It's a long time to have a border with Mexico.
Right.
And for almost the entire history of our country, barely anything was done to secure it.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really start ramping up until Bill Clinton's presidency. I mean, Ronald Reagan was notoriously, for instance, very, very relaxed on his immigration policy.
And he's the one who introduced amnesty.
Yeah, he introduced amnesty. So even and also the number of migrants we see now, while it has been better for most of our history, it's also been a lot worse in its history too.
Correct.
That's an important thing to remember. So if it was such an imminent danger, we've been in imminent danger for over 100 years now.
A very long
Shoot.
time. And again, it was Governor Rick Perry before
Thank you,
Governor
Perry.
Greg Abbott, who, while on the campaign trail when he ran for president, hoot and hollered about, the border and wanting to do almost exactly the same thing as Governor Abbott.
Yeah.
So it was found to be inappropriate at that time, as Governor Abbott's efforts are found to be inappropriate this time. The responsibility falls to the federal government. Acknowledge, yes, the Constitution does acknowledge the state's sovereign interest in protecting their borders. However, it is the responsibility of the United States government, federal government, to protect and defend its borders.
Yeah, and speaking of the federal government, Abbott mentions the federal government does have border policy. And here's something that I'm sure he would not mention in this because it's another big shot in the foot. Article 6, Clause 2, the Supremacy Clause. One of the most famous lines in the Constitution. It's a little obtuse, but I'll read it for you. The Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. Any United States laws is the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. What they're saying is that according to the law, and judges are bound to recognize federal law and not state laws if state laws conflict with federal laws. Whoa, that was weird. Federal laws. And then he uses the language Abbott uses, supreme law of the land. He's directly pulling up a parallel to Article 6 here. And it's such a strange thing to see that you would make a parallel to Article 6, which states that the Biden's laws will override your own. I think that's an interesting choice of words, at least. But also then that's another thing. If the federal law states, that border troops can cut Texas wire, if national law states, federal law states, a certain level of looseness with the border, then and they actively take issue with the state law, then that's, according to the U.S. Constitution, that's final.
Say that loud enough for the students in the back of the classroom, Kellen.
Okay. If the federal government enacts a law and that allows certain level of looseness on the border, and they do contest a Texas law, that is final. The federal law takes over. If they don't attempt to take issue with the Texas law will stand. But the moment the federal government comes in and says that they have a problem with the Texas law and that the federal laws say otherwise, flat out say otherwise, the federal government wins. It's arbitrated right there in Article 6, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution.
It's right there. Good job. So this battle on the border will continue as you have Greg Abbott steadfast in his position. Mm-hmm. And federal law is federal law, and therefore the Biden administration will be steadfast in the federal government's position. Unfortunately, we did not have any resolution recently in the bipartisan immigration bill that was presented and rejected by the Senate. Where do we go?
I'm very disappointed that the bipartisan bill didn't pass. I saw a lot of it's mostly Republicans. I've seen this much less on the Democrat side. I've seen a lot of Republicans very angry with that bill, saying that it wasn't going far enough. And that you see some Democrats who said it went too far. That's how you know it's a good compromise. Everybody's unhappy. Mm-hmm. These are just factors of government, and I think that shows very clearly how kind of how far our standards have fallen, that we and how partisan we've gotten, that we cannot accept compromise amid even a split legislature. I mean, if there's any time to pass like tough compromise bills, it's now. And frankly, I was just kind of hoping a law would get passed in Congress, and the hyperbole will continue. The fear mongering will continue, that if we don't do something now, the U.S. is going to fall, Texas is going to fall, your family is going to be murdered, yada, yada, and yada. The end of the world is coming.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take military action. But we've had this for almost 180 years now.
Correct.
About 180 years now, we've had this issue, and we have been doing more security than ever since the 90s.
Oh,
the
no
90s,
doubt.
we picked up security. Ever since then, it's been a big part of it, and it's important to remember that context. The sovereignty of Texas will not fall unless we were to actually be invaded by a cartel that wants to take over the government.
Uh-oh.
But so far nothing like that has presented anywhere at all so far, because I think most cartels know better than to declare war on the United States of America.
That would be a whole different conversation. America at war with the cartels.
That would be crazy.
This issue of immigration, like you say, we've been going through this for years and years, and unfortunately, the personality, the cult of personality of Donald Trump has taken precedent over the safety of Americans, the safety of its residents and its citizens. And it's disappointing that, again, I'm going to harp on this, and we're going to talk more about immigration.
Oh, this is good. On the 2024 campaign trail, this is going to come up. Expect to hear it.
Time and time again. And it's unfortunate that the Republicans voted this down despite all the hard work put into bringing bipartisan approval and good legislation to the Senate floor.
Yeah.
It's disappointing. It wasn't enough. It was too much. This is what compromise is all about. And there was a solution. But however, because there were personalities bigger than the government, bigger than the safety of Americans, bigger than the well-being of America, bigger than your kitchen table issues, this legislation did not pass, and we're no better for it. Yeah. America should be disappointed.
I know, I certainly am. And remember, you don't need to buy into the hype of every policy, right? When someone's running for office, especially a high-profile office, governor, senator, president, they're going to pull out all the stops. They want it maximum showmanship. They want to make sure it feels urgent to you, because they have to explain to you why you care. Mm-hmm. But it also means that they can exaggerate. It also means that they can manipulate. Might be a strong word, but it might be the accurate word. They might be trying to manipulate you. They might be trying to make you scared. They might be trying to make you feel like the end of the world is coming if you don't do this thing, so that you feel pressured to vote for them out of fear. You feel pressure to support them out of fear. You don't need to buy into that. Right. Most issues are overblown. Most social issues are overblown. Most people who put transgender issues as their top issue have probably never been inconvenienced by it even a single time. Even though some have, it's not the majority of people. It's easy to blow these issues up, to buy into hyperbole, buy into mob mentality, buy into hate.
Right.
But
congratulations to Senators Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, the two other Republicans who voted.
Yeah, and the gentleman, right, and then not to mention the gentleman from Oklahoma who brought it here in the first place. Langford, yeah, Langford and Chuck Schumer.
Yes.
They sat down and they actually came up with a bill. Most of the time when Republicans and Democrats meet, it goes nowhere. But this was a rare opportunity.
Right. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, I'm still kind of trying to understand your no vote. But again, we're not done with this topic, and we'll have more conversation about this.
Yeah, and we'll let you know. We'll make a second episode and post on our socials if a resolution to this conflict does come. refusal to comply with the Supreme Court has led to a wide variety of outcomes, some of which were very mundane, like, the government just kind of lets it go, to more interesting scenarios like the Little Rock crisis, where the government can send in the military if they really want to. We don't know. Neither of us know President Biden. We don't know if that will be a priority or not, but it's not illegal for him to do that at this point.
Indeed.
Technically, he can.
Right.
He has I'm not going to read it because I've already read enough Constitution, but the vesting clause is the Second Amendment to faithfully execute the laws, and that includes Supreme Court orders. So we'll let you know as this situation develops, if it develops into something more interesting, or maybe it dies right here and the government lets it go.
Right. Get yourself a pocket Constitution. We do. We carry with us always.
Never leave the house without it.
It's like your American Express card. Did I just do a plug for American Express? Jesus, David.
Good job, David.
All right. Take us home, Colin.
Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share. We want to grow our community. We want to bring conversation, people. If you're making it to this end right now and you're not sharing with all your friends,
what's wrong?
You should. Hey, it's a little mean. You're being a little mean.
No.
But I'll say
this is serious stuff here.
But that you should.
The people need to know.
Yeah, this is serious stuff, and we bring news. We don't try to buy into hyperbole. We don't try to buy into the hype of it all. We try to analyze each situation as it is, and pretty much no issues off the table from us. We've covered everything under the sun, and we will cover everything in the solar system by the time we're done here.
That's right. Especially as it applies to your kitchen table issues, what you are facing here in Central Florida specifically, but definitely your kitchen table issues, and how all of these decisions, all of these discussions affect you and your family and your loved ones.
Yeah. If we missed something about the Constitution that you think matters, let us know. Keep in mind, we covered Article 1, Section 10. I briefly covered the vesting clause of the Second Amendment, the Article 4, I believe it's Section 4 that Greg Abbott pulls up, and Article 6, Section 2. If there's anything we missed, please bring it up. We want to hear. We want more conversation. And with that, have a wonderful day, and we are out.